He thought the cameras only showed empty hallways, until one figure kept moving closer every hour. Michael had been a night security guard at Crestwood Mall for 6 months. Most nights were quiet, too quiet. The hum of the fluorescent lights, the occasional echo of a broom, and the soft glow of the security monitors were the only sounds that kept him company. He liked the solitude. It gave him time to think. But tonight felt different from the moment he stepped in. The night began like any other. Michael settled into the security office chair, scrolling through the camera feeds. The mall was empty and every corridor perfectly still. A clock ticked 12:03 a.m. He sipped his lukewarm coffee and yawned. That's when the motion sensor in the old West Wing triggered. A red alert blinked on the monitor. Michael leaned forward, squinting at the screen. The hallway appeared empty. Dust floated in the dim light. Probably a rat or just the wind, he muttered to himself. He pressed the button to check the cameras more closely, but everything looked normal. Shrugging, he returned to his coffee. An hour passed. The sensor triggered again. This time Michael's unease grew. He switched to the corridor camera feed. A shadowy figure appeared near the far end of the hall. It was dark and featureless, almost like a silhouette. He leaned closer. The figure moved slowly, deliberately, from one end to the other, but strangely, it didn't match the layout of the hallway. Michael shook his head. "I need to see this up close," he whispered. He grabbed his flashlight and stepped out of the office. The mall was eerily silent. Every step echoed against the polished floor. The West Wing was darker than usual, lights flickering sporadically. As he walked down the hallway, he saw the empty stores abandoned decades ago. Dust motes floated in the weak beam of his flashlight. The air smelled stale, like the history of forgotten shoppers lingered here. And then he noticed it. A shadow flitted across the floor just at the edge of his light. His heart raced. He turned sharply, but nothing was there. "Okay, maybe I'm tired," he muttered. He checked every corner, every darkened doorway. Nothing, not a sound, not a movement. Returning to the office, Michael sat down, trying to calm himself. But the monitors were flickering. And then he saw it, himself walking down the hallway, sitting in his chair, staring at the screen. Confused, he looked around the office. He was sitting there. How could the monitor show him moving down the hallway? He rewound the footage and it was impossible. The figure mirrored his movements perfectly, but the video feed continued while he sat frozen in shock. Michael tried calling his manager, but the line was dead. He tried opening the doors. Everything was locked. Panic set in. He ran back to the hallway, just to make sure no one else was inside. The hallway was empty again, but the feeling of being watched was overwhelming. Hours passed like minutes. The shadow remained on the monitors, twisting unnaturally, sometimes disappearing, sometimes stretching longer than physically possible. Michael didn't know what to do. He stayed glued to the screens, watching, waiting, praying that morning would come soon. By 6 a.m., the first cleaning crew arrived. Michael was pale, eyes wide. "I don't know what happened," he stammered. The cleaning crew noticed the monitors, and one of them whispered, "That West Wing hasn't had a guard stay past midnight in years. Something always scares them away." Michael quit that night. He never returned. But the mall cameras? They still show him walking the empty hallways long after he left. And employees whisper that sometimes late at night, a shadowy figure follows new guards from corridor to corridor, exactly as he had once been followed. Hospitals never sleep, but some wings are meant to stay silent. Anna had been working the night shift as a nurse at Hillcrest Hospital for 3 years. Most nights were quiet, filled with routine checks and occasional phone calls. But tonight something about the hospital felt off. The fluorescent lights flickered more than usual, casting long shadows down the empty corridors. Around 2:15 a.m., she received a call from the head nurse. "Anna, can you check the basement morgue?" The light keeps flickering, and the security system isn't showing anything. Anna had been there before, but it had been years. The basement was supposed to be decommissioned, untouched since the old staff retired. With a flashlight in hand and her heart slightly pounding, she descended the narrow stairwell. The air smelled of damp concrete and old disinfectant. Each step echoed against the walls. The basement was vast, with rows of cold metal drawers. The morgues remained still intact in their eerie slumber. Anna's flashlight beam bounced off the metallic surfaces. Most drawers were closed, labels faded, but one caught her eye. Its digital display read "Occupied," with a timestamp of 2:16 a.m. Her pulse quickened. How could this be? This section had been out of service for over a decade. As she approached, a faint shuffling sound echoed from the far corner. Anna froze, holding her breath. "Hello, is anyone there?" Only silence answered. Her mind raced. Maybe it was rats or just the old pipes. But the footsteps continued, slow and deliberate, circling in the shadows. She stepped closer to the drawers, flashlight trembling. The air grew colder and she felt a presence behind her. Anna spun around, but nothing was there. The metal drawers loomed taller than she remembered, casting long, twisted shadows. A sudden metallic clang made her jump. She looked back. The occupied drawer was now slightly ajar. The digital display blinked erratically, heart hammering. She reached for the door to leave, only to find it locked from the outside. Panic surged. Footsteps drew closer, echoing unnaturally. She shined her flashlight around, catching a glimpse of a tall, shadowy figure standing just behind the rows of drawers. Featureless, yet somehow aware of her presence. Every instinct screamed to run, but the locked door trapped her. Anna fumbled for the emergency exit, finding a side door and forcing it open. She ran up the stairwell, never looking back. Once back on the hospital floor, everything seemed normal again. No lights flickering, no sounds, just the quiet hum of night. The next morning, she tried telling her supervisor, but they dismissed it as fatigue. Anna never returned to the basement again, but sometimes during quiet nights, she swears she hears whispers in the corridors, voices calling her name, from the basement that should be empty but isn't. He thought it was just another lonely night, till the knocking wouldn't stop. Derek worked the graveyard shift at a remote gas station on the outskirts of a small town. The highway nearby rarely saw traffic at night, just the occasional truck rumbling past or a lone car stopping for fuel. Most nights were quiet, even boring, giving him time to sip his coffee and scroll through the security monitors. But tonight was different. Around 2:30 a.m., the bell above the door rang. Derek looked up from the register and saw a woman standing in the doorway. She wore an old, faded red coat that hung loosely on her frame, and her face was pale, almost ghostly in the dim neon light. "Hi, my car broke down," she said, her voice soft and trembling. "Could you help me?" Derek nodded and offered her a chair and some coffee while she made a call. but something about her felt off. She didn't appear on any of the security cameras. He double-checked. The cameras covered every inch of the store. Nothing. Feeling uneasy, Derek went outside to see if her car was parked nearby. The parking lot was empty. No red coat, no car. Only wet footprints leading from the door into the darkness behind the store. He froze, heart racing. He called out her name. No response. The footprints stopped suddenly at the back alley, as if she had vanished into thin air. Derek ran back inside, double-checking the cameras. Still nothing. The monitors only showed the empty store, the registers and the dimly glowing signs outside. He tried to rationalize it. Maybe she left quietly while he stepped out. Maybe it was a prank. But he couldn't shake the feeling that she was still there, just out of sight. The next morning, Derek told the local police about the incident. They listened, confused. There hasn't been a red car in this area for over 10 years, one officer said quietly. Derek frowned. What do you mean? 10 years ago, the officer explained. A woman wearing a red coat crashed her car near this highway. She didn't survive. People say her spirit still wanders the area, especially near your station. Derek never worked the night shift alone again, but sometimes around 2:30 a.m., he swears he hears the bell ring, sees wet footprints leading from the door, and catches a glimpse of a red coat moving in the shadows. She's never inside the store when he looks, but he knows she's there, watching.